So the second way to build out a custom drum kit is to start completely from scratch. So I'm just gonna go into my instrument section and grab a drum rack. Notice it's completely empty, I'm starting from scratch, or I can go into drums, obviously, and grab a drum rack as well. Either way works, just grab an empty drum rack, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and delete this track here and delete this track here. So this is the track that I'm now working on, okay? For drum rack, it's just an empty drum rack, okay? What I like to do is when I'm building out a custom drum rack from scratch, I will do one of two varieties. The first variety of drum rack that I'll program from scratch will have basically one full kit, starting with this area right here, okay? This section right here, and I'm just gonna hold down Command so that I can individually go between these rows. If I don't hold down Command, notice how it just jumps between these blocks of 16 clip slots at a time. I'm gonna hold down Command and go one below the middle here and go to C2. I'll start with C2 and work my way up to C4, which is up here, okay? So on a standard MIDI keyboard like this right here, where I'm gonna have, you know, on a smaller MIDI keyboard that is, I'm gonna have 25 keys at my disposal. That's gonna correspond to roughly 2 octaves with an extra key at the top. So I've got C2 here, okay? Let me turn this on. I've got C2 here by default, okay? If I'm not octave up or octave down, if I'm at my middle C here with C3 in the middle, if I hold this and go down here, I've got C2 right here, and at the top, that little yellow blinking right there is gonna be C4. So I can basically put an entire kit of 25 sounds into the space of a standard 25 key MIDI controller. So right off the bat, I don't have to octave up or down to get all the way to the bottom of my drum rack or all the way to the top. Okay, so that's the first variety of drum rack. That's the one we're gonna build out first very quickly. And then I'll show you the second variety, which is building a drum kit that focuses on one specific type of sound, such as a percussion sounds drum kit or a kicks drum kit. Okay, so we've got our drum rack, and remember from a previous lesson how we downloaded those samples. Okay, so I'm gonna go in here to my drum hits folder, and I'm going to grab 4 kicks. And there's only 4 kicks in this folder, which makes it easy to select the 4 kicks that I want to use. I'm going to drag those into C2, make sure that's highlighted down here. Again, I'm just holding down Command to get between these kind of darker gray and lighter gray pre-selected groups of 16, so that C2 right here is now going to be my bottom note on my selection. And I'm going to click and drag all 4 kicks into the bottom row. Now, this is just a system that I've developed that I personally like. You might develop your own system. Basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna layer out 4 kicks, 4 claps, 4 closed hats, and then 4 open hats in my first 16 clip slots here. So I'm gonna go into snares here. They're kind of heavy. Let's see if they have any claps here. And I'm going to go back to samples and just type in clap because I found some great claps there a second ago. That's a good one. Love it. I kind of want that one as well. And I'm going to grab 2 in each one of these sections of 4 here. I'm gonna grab 2 that I think I'm gonna use heavily in the loop and 2 that are gonna kind of be off the wall, out of left field, kind of less used sounds. Grab that one. Like that one as well. Okay, now I'm gonna grab 4 closed hats here. Get out of my search field there. Perfect. One of them sounded a little bit more open, that one. But it'll work because now I'm gonna grab, for dramatic, more open hats or ride cymbals. Those will work as well. So I'm gonna go up here and type in hat. See what we got here. Close, close, open, sparkle. Yeah, that'll work for the first one. And I'm just picking sounds that I like that I think are gonna work well together or sound good in the mix. There's not really any rhyme or reason to building out your own custom drum kit more than just picking sounds you like that you think will work good in your productions. Remember, you can always swap in different sounds later on, so you're not tied down to one drum kit. Love that sound. Okay, let's pick two more. Beautiful. Okay, so I've got my first 16. Now I can jump on my keyboard and I've got 4 kicks, 4 claps, 4 closed hats, and 4 open hats. Now the next 16, if I just scroll up here, I'm gonna pick a combination of percussion sounds and other random sounds that aren't gonna necessarily hold down the groove of my track, but that can be used to add character, to add accents, and to give my drum loops, my future drum loops that I'm gonna create with this drum kit, some uniqueness and some vibe, okay? So I'm gonna go up here and I'm just gonna type in perk and see what comes up. And for this, I highly recommend choosing one-shots, not loops. We'll get into dicing up loops into drum racks in a later lesson. So for right now, let's go with some one-shots. So work along with me and build out your own kit in this manner. You can always figure out a different manner later, but for right now, so that we have a solid drum kit going, go ahead and follow along with me and build out your own drum rack. Grab your 4 kicks, 4 claps, 4 open hats, and 4 closed hats and 4 open hats, okay? Now, also notice as you go through this process that now these clip slots, these sample slots of your drum rack here have been filled in with this lighter gray color, okay? So this is just to indicate that you now have samples in these sample slots, okay? These have been filled in. I'm gonna scroll up and I'm just gonna grab 8 more sounds. Let's go back to my samples folder. And I'm going to grab, let's see, drum hits, effects. I'm probably gonna have to look elsewhere for my sounds here. Yeah, okay. So let's go grab some one-shots from the samples folder of Ableton. Everybody should have these samples if you have Ableton Standard installed. And I'm just gonna type in perk. These are great. I'm just gonna grab all 7 of these, click the first one, shift click the last one, and I'm just gonna drag those in, and notice how it's highlighting orange here, the slots that I would potentially fill once I let go of this click that I'm holding, this left click. So I'm gonna put them in those 7 slots right there. They're gonna auto-populate. Now I have on my keyboard, right, those open hats, and now the next 4 are gonna be okay, I'm gonna grab one more that's kind of off the wall here. I actually like all those, so I'm just gonna grab all those and drag them in too. This is completely up to you. Remember that you don't just have these 2 middle octaves, you have all of these clip slots available to you, what equates to roughly an 88 key keyboard, full-size piano of clip slots available to drop samples into. So drop in as many as you wish. I'm just starting in the middle so that when I jump between instruments, I don't have to keep octaving up or down to get back to middle C, where most instruments are gonna be, where most other instruments are gonna sound good, okay? So now that I've got this drum kit built out here, I'm gonna have to octave up one time. I'm gonna program in a simple loop down here. Just very simply to make sure that these sounds sound decent together for now. I can always swap in new sounds later. Make sure my headphone icon is highlighted here. Go ahead and program in a simple 1-bar loop here. I'm just double clicking to enter those notes. Fantastic. Sounds great right off the bat. And again, if I don't like the sounds individually, I can always go in and swap them out later. But for now, I like the sound of this kit, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it a Command R, or if you're more of a clicker, go ahead and right click and click rename. I'm gonna put a space, my name in all caps, easily identifiable in my browser later, okay? And I'm gonna call this drum kit number 1. Sounds good to me. You'll come up with your own naming strategy. For now, that's gonna be just fine. I'm gonna go ahead and click the save icon here and hit enter. It's gonna copy those media files into this ADG, into this drum rack, this group, and I'm gonna go ahead and lower the volume here so I'm not clipping out that track or clipping out my master bus over here, okay? The cymbals might be a little bit loud. And that'll work for now. I can always beef up these sounds later, like I said, swap them out, change them, and rename the kit. There's an unlimited number of kits you can make, you can save, customize. You could even do iterations on this if I swapped out, let's say I swapped out this, where's that? That sound. Let's say I swap that out for a different percussion sound. I can always go in here, give it a Command R, and maybe put a, just like we put our project naming iterations, I might put a 0.02 or a 0.01, or give it a different number here and then go back and save it. And I know that this is going to be originating from my Jake drum kit number 1, but it's gonna be 0.02. I've changed it somehow, I've swapped it out, I've changed the sounds or the placement of them, and you can leave yourself notes on these as well. Swapped perk sounds, or sound in this case, but let's say I swapped a few of them. I wanted to leave myself some breadcrumbs here with the naming of it. I can always do that. And when I go back in here to grab a drum rack later on, I know, okay, I've got my original version and one that I swapped the percussion sounds, which will give me a little bit of a different feel. This is kind of cool because what you can do is, while playing out live, I can grab the original and drop it right back in, and guess what? It'll play that original sound. Or I can swap out. And I've only swapped out this one percussion sound here, but if I had swapped out maybe the kick and the snare and some of the claps, maybe some toms as well, or the open hats and the closed hats, all of that would still play out in real time with different sounds. So you can see the power of this. As you go, you can just simply, let's say I want to try out my deep tech minimal kit that I've adjusted, okay? It was already there, I just swapped in some of my own sounds. Now these aren't even in that same structure that I'm used to, but it kind of sounds groovy. I'm gonna duplicate that out. On the second one, drop in my original kit and play that out. Turn both these down so I'm not clipping out my master bus. And there you have it. So you can see the power of building out custom drum kits, okay? Whether they be based on kits that were already there in Ableton, or that you downloaded offline or got from a friend, or whether they be built from the ground up using your own custom strategy that you're gonna develop as you go in Ableton. Either way, this is a very powerful tool to very quickly customize the sounds that you're getting out of Ableton and ultimately make your productions really pop and stand out and develop your own unique sound, okay? So that's how you build out custom drum kits using drum racks, okay? If you want to very quickly and very simply get an 8 sound, okay, an 8 sample, you're limited to 8 with Impulse, an 8 sample kit going, you're more going for a very quick approach. It's more rudimentary. You don't need all the functionality of a drum kit. Drop in an Impulse, and now you've got 8 sample slots, which are going to correspond to, let's find the right octave here. There we go. Are going to correspond to just your whole notes here on your keyboard, the white keys here, okay? You only get 8 sounds, but if you're gonna go put in maybe 2 kicks, careful with the volume here of each sample. They get loud very quickly in an Impulse. See, I'm already clipping out there. Okay, and I want to grab maybe a clap or 2. Great, and again, remember, turn these down before you play them out. Save the eardrums. Okay, maybe a couple hats. Grab a hat there. Oops, let's put hat, not hats. Just grab that for an example here. Again, turn those down. They're gonna be very loud to start with. -12 is a good place to start. Remember, you can always type in a value once you've clicked on a parameter, and it will jump right to that value with an enter. So there you go. Right off the bat, I've got a very rudimentary kit, but a kit that will work for laying down a very simple groove. I highly recommend getting into the habit of building out your own drum kits using drum racks. Okay, you have a lot more sample slots, you have a lot more availability, and every sample that you drop in will automatically, Ableton will automatically within that clip slot create a simpler module, this guy right here, and drop that sample into the simpler device for you with the right settings. We're gonna get into simpler in the next couple lessons. Very, very powerful tool that comes with Ableton. But just remember that drum racks are going to give you a lot more flexibility. And if you get in the habit of programming your own custom drum kits in a drum rack, you have a lot more flexibility, and it's basically the same process as using Impulse. So if you're going to go one way or the other, highly recommend going with drum racks. It's going to give you the sound you want, and it's going to give you a customized control over your drums that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So there you have it. That's how you build a custom drum kit in Ableton Live. Next, we're going to get into using instrument presets. So we've built out some drum loops, and we want to lay down some instruments, maybe a bass line, maybe some pads, maybe some chords on some keys, who knows? But we want to develop this beat out. I'm going to get into that next lesson. See you guys then.